Yeah, I love progress bars. And by the same token, I love Kingdom Come Deliverance. I'm probably about to say a lot of very unkind things about this game, but know that it comes from a place of love. The Rattay Tourney was added in a patch, and it's basically where you go to fight all day for money and combat experience. It's best to do it here because you don't get wounded or ruin your gear. There's a pool of 26 pieces of weapons and armor that the tourney awards when you win it. Only one piece at a time, though. You also get 400 groschen, but the enrollment is 60, and if you bought lodgings until the next tourney, it's 180 total, so it's not really a money grind. Most people should probably stop after 6 wins because by that point it's given you a full set of some of the best armor in the game, and the high tier sword doesn't drop until the 25th win. So after spending 2 real-world weeks trading short-term memory loss with Captain Bernard a few years ago, I came back to the game because of the release of Deliverance 2. Someone told me about the nice armor set from the tourney, so I got stuck in. Beating the tourney 25 times is more than enough to get bored with it and start to optimize your strategies. I want that noble's sword, damn it. And so today's challenge is to beat the Rattay tourney with only A button presses. A single button will be used, not even the thumbsticks. I rebound A to be the block button, it's normally interact. I just thought it would be funny to call it an A button challenge. Happy April 1st, everybody. You may be interested to know that this isn't just a whim. As near as I can tell, this is basically the optimal strategy. It's actually kind of depressing. The only hiccup is that you may need the thumbstick to center the target on your screen to auto-lock on. This was a problem in testing. Never actually happened in the real run, though. The tourney usually takes like 20 to 40 minutes, so I'm just going to slide this over to the right and monologue a micro-retrospective to you on the left. Might as well start with the combat so you know what you're looking at. If you've played the game, you'll know that it has a very deep and complex combat system, and if you've taken the game seriously, you'll know that all that depth and complexity can be completely ignored with a single mechanic. Master Strikes. Basically, it's a timed parry that breaks combo chains and delivers unresistible damage to the enemy. This damage is highly variable and usually quite low on armored opponents, but you do it with a single button and there's nothing they can do to stop it. The entire stance system used for blocking and feinting is also irrelevant to Master Strikes. More importantly though, the enemy can do it to you. Yeah. Now, enemies need to be highly trained to execute Master Strikes with any kind of regularity, and the window for Master Strikes and how hard it is for enemies to Master Strike you is basically a stat check between your stat and the enemy's. Most enemies in the game are actually pushovers and die if you perfect block them once and then hit them a few times. But in the Rattay tourney in particular, the combatants usually have very high defense and warfare stats, so they Master Strike constantly. This can really make it feel like you're getting your ass kicked, but in actuality, you're just losing dice rolls. It is foolish to actually press the attack button in the tourney or against higher level opponents. The game has a lot of combos you can unlock, but against higher level enemies, long strings of attacks usually start to get blocked or Master Striked as they recover from stagger during the combo, and lower level enemies usually can't survive the entire combo string to see the finisher. So I'm not sure I've ever actually carried out a full combo in this game. It takes a lot of practice to get the timing right, and there isn't a dummy to try it on that won't just start to perfect block you midway through. So the combat rhythm is just a perfect block or Master Strike and then go for one good bop on the noggin hoping for the Skullcracker perk to proc, and then Master Striking on loop for the rest of the time. The tourney is 3 rounds of best 2 out of 3 with escalating difficulty with each opponent. You get to choose the weapon type for 3 of the rounds, but it's randomized for the rest, which means that in order to be good at the tourney you'll have to master all weapon types. Or do you? Well, 3 of the weapon types are short sword, long sword, and hunting sword, so more than half your bases are covered with just leveling the sword skill. Also, your level in a weapon just determines your damage with that type. Your ability to parry and the speed of your attacks are governed by your defense and warfare skills respectively. So really, you can have a room temperature sword level and just power through with Master Strikes if your defense stat is high enough. As for the damage done by these Master Strikes, it's weird. A lot of Master Strikes seem to just do stamina damage. I am vaguely aware that this game contains a system where you don't get injured by strikes until your armor is damaged, but good luck finding details about that online. The most puzzling thing is that there is exactly one Master Strike animation that does approximately 20 times more damage than any other. It's just about enough to one-shot the first round enemy most of the time. What actually causes it to come out is hard to say, I can only assume that it has to be an outside haymaker against an opponent with low stamina, but I swear sometimes it just happens on its own. Master Strikes and combo finishers also have this weird quality to them where even if you visually stab someone in the heart, throat, or eyes, it's going to do basically no more damage than punching them in the face. This is partially because all animations have to account for the enemy wearing impenetrable adamantium armor or training with fake weapons. Also, these animations were assuredly mocapped from real people sparring with blunted weapons, so it's not like they can show someone getting run through. It does kinda take the edge off, though. So the combat in this game is a hot mess. The kinda hot mess I'd ask to the prom, but a hot mess nonetheless. With this full set of high-tier armor and good combat statistics, I stand about an even chance of beating like a half dozen heavily armored soldiers in combat, at once, all on my own, so long as they don't have more than one attack dog. And that is quite thrilling, but also it's, profoundly jank the entire time. Speaking of jank, this speech skill just ain't right. You acquire speech experience by exhausting unique dialogue options. Now, this game is no slouch when it comes to letting you talk to completely random people, but the actual amount of speech experience granted is pretty low, and you'll quickly run out of fresh opportunities in the entire game if you're trying to build a suave, smooth-talking Henry. The common advice for leveling speech is to always take all persuasion options available whenever possible, and while that is definitely the intended strategy, it's also basically guaranteed to fail. Back in the day, I was running around doing side quests trying to get speech experience before I continued the main quests so that I wouldn't miss out on dialogue options when it came to it. Then the custodian Sebastian von Berg barges in and starts harassing the nurse. Well, that's a speech option. I'm supposed to take speech options to level up my speech skill. And then I woke up in jail. Upon revisiting this quest with the dramatically higher stats and the ability to see the success threshold for this check, I can confirm that this check is functionally impossible. I get it, it's not smart to actually try to talk this guy out of it. I'm a dirty peasant and I should know my place. But with a finite amount of speech checks in the game and hard incentives to level up speech, it's a little harsh to basically put me to the whip for interacting with the game's mechanics. With the empathetic perk, you can see the stats required to pass a check, which also means that in places you'll see that you have more than enough stats to pass the check, but you'll fail anyway. And sure, why would I be able to intimidate my way out of this situation where I'm surrounded by 4 heavily armored men? But if that situation is impossible, it is patently dishonest to provide gameplay information to the effect that it isn't. In D&D, it's a general rule that you shouldn't even be able to roll a d20 test unless there is at least a 5% chance of getting at least a slightly more favorable outcome on the critical success. In this circumstance, using intimidation didn't need to actually get all of them to leave me alone, but if I scared off like a single guy out of the group, thus making this fight a bit easier, then that would have at least been something. Now, if the highly controversial save system this game has is anything to go by, this game wants you to live with your failures and experience a story of ups and downs. Consequences are meant to feel real, and you're not meant to be Superman. Disco Elysium was excellent at creating a story in which failure could often be as much of a means to an end as success, and sometimes even having even better results. And I've heard similar things about this game, but it's also an RPG, and having a progress bar that you basically can't work on feels very incomplete. Why can I pick a bunch of flowers and become a master alchemist while being completely illiterate, but somehow learning to talk to people is the hardest thing in the universe? I can make potions that heal arrow wounds out of dandelion and marigold, but I'm going to be socially awkward the whole time. The obvious solution is just to haggle. That increases the speech skill. Or does it? Actually, most of the time it seems haggling doesn't grant any experience. But sometimes it does? I've seen the forum post about how haggling and then instantly paying full price is better for getting speech XP, but it's never actually worked for me. So the only real way to get speech experience is to thrust yourself into situations where you have to use the speech skill and hope you haven't been set up to fail, because as near as I can tell, a failed speech check doesn't actually give you experience, only negative consequences. You end up in this weird situation where you almost definitely have a higher chance of succeeding with charisma, and don't want to fail, but know you're leaving an incredibly finite resource on the table if you don't try the speech option instead. You can just purchase a high charisma score by getting better gear, and most of the time that'll work instead. But by doing so, you're now neglecting your speech training. So the combat is broken on the inside and speech doesn't work right. So what's actually good about the game? Well, everything. I mean, just look at it. If you're familiar with my channel, you know that I rather like the Elder Scrolls series. But that franchise is dead. Bethesda killed it. Skyrim is 14 years old. It's time to move on. Stop me if you've heard this before, but Kingdom Come Deliverance is just Oblivion 2. We caught the developers red-handed. And I think Oblivion 2 is all I've ever really wanted. The developers show much more love for The Witcher as inspiration for obvious reasons, but I can't pick locks or pockets in Witcher 3, so really, it was always going to be Oblivion. Sure, you can't shoot jets of flames from your hands, but did anyone ever really mainline destruction in Elder Scrolls? I want to get in a horse and ride out into the wilderness for 15 minutes straight, hunt some animals, bring the meat back to a butcher to sell, get ambushed and finagle my way around somehow carrying 500 kilograms of gear back to town to sell for money I don't need. Talk to 10 different people with 10 different names but the same voice actor about absolutely nothing important. Pick a lock in a shed and then don't actually bother to steal anything from it because it's not worth the hassle. Get distracted from the main quest because there's a problem with a local witch. Happily get swindled for $5 by a charlatan because it gave me experience. Think about killing him and running his pockets as I watch him walk into the sunset. Oh hey, are those cumans? Take them all out, steal all their armor and weapons, and oh look, they had a little camp set up. This guy slept in because he has the night watch. Let's see what's in their war chest. Aha! Pajamas. Yeah, that makes sense. And look, the rest of the pajamas are hanging from a fallen tree to dry in the sun. I caught them on laundry day. The sun's going down. Better find an inn for the night. The innkeeper can train me in axe techniques. Pricey though, better haggle him down. This lady has an interesting name. Need to patch up my gear after that fight. Oh, I'm good enough at maintenance now to read that book. Well, daylight's burning, so I'll just pop downstairs for the continental breakfast. I accidentally knock out a guardsman while attempting to assist in law enforcement, and now I have to pay a fine. That's fair. What are these woodsmen? Oh, they're trying to kill me. This is brilliant. This is exactly what I needed. Do you remember the Siege of Whiterun? Yeah, me neither. Oh my god, Bethesda wishes their battle scenes looked like this. Alright, time for the climactic showdown. Some people might be off-put by the simulation aspect of the game. Hunger and sleep and hygiene and all that. The most recent high-profile game that I know that went this deep into simulation was Red Dead 2. A game that I personally enjoyed, but also strongly believe was actually just objectively not good from a mechanical standpoint. All the simulation aspects of that game focused around making things slower and more methodical. Travel was slow, managing your inventory was tedious, and on launch broken in places, and the gunplay never felt as tight and satisfying as Red Dead 1. It had an unhealthy devotion to realism without actually having an interesting depth to those mechanics. KCD's simulation elements are actually incredibly mild if you've ever done a run of Hardcore New Vegas. I've done 2 of those runs. That game requires you to manage hunger, hydration, and sleep. It's never really a problem, but aside from being able to drink from ponds, it was never really integrated that well beyond additional stats being added to consumables. In KCD though, the entire world was crafted with that in mind. You're never more than an hour or 2 fast travel from an inn where you can buy a room. If you buy a room at an inn, then you have access to a cooking pot where you can eat some stew to get 25% nourishment back for free, and bread is incredibly cheap and filling because of course it is. When you're deep into the game, you can get the contemplative perk, which basically means that while sleeping or waiting, your energy and nourishment don't decrease. That's super convenient, but also kinda turns off the entire mechanic, so I can understand why it was turned off in hardcore mode. If you happen to be one of the very small number of people who watched my millionaire speedrun of the Elder Scrolls franchise, you'll know that I bemoaned that the wagon only exists in Daggerfall despite being an amazing addition to the gameplay loop. It let you carry 700 kilograms of goods in a discrete inventory while adventuring so you wouldn't be weighed down by your spoils. And wouldn't you know it, Kingdom Come Deliverance brought this mechanic back almost identically. Your horse can only carry about 400 pounds of items, but it functions basically the same way. It's incredible. Morrowind and Oblivion had no replacement to this system, and the companion storage in Skyrim had a lot of problems. Knights and nobles and armies in these times would always have what was known as a baggage train. It was a huge logistical consideration for troop movements, and an adventure game not even having a cargo donkey as an option is just flat out stupid. And while KCD does focus on simulation aspects in most regards, it still contains a lot of quality of life. Every inn-room or sleeping quarters you own has a shared storage chest that you can access equally from anywhere. This didn't need to exist and is technically against their design philosophy, but it's just a nice spot of convenience I don't think anyone will complain about. Maybe it can be exploited by depositing stolen goods in one area and then safely smuggling them to another for resale without being caught holding, but honestly, who cares? Have I filled enough time yet? Okay, back to gripes. You get dirty real fast in this game. It's never that impactful to gameplay, but despite being an immersive element, it's actually distracting and unimmersive just how fast you get dirty. This helmet I'm wearing was literally laundered less than 6 real-world hours ago, and it's covered in rust. I have done nothing but talk to villagers in that time, and I still have hours on the buff from wearing freshly laundered clothing. So what's even happening here? Maybe it's because it's raining? Wouldn't that wash my armor? It's really no wonder that Get Dirty More Gradually is one of the highest downloaded mods right behind unlimited saving. People don't even mind the mechanic of getting dirty, they just recognize that it's tuned way too high. That being said, the level of model detail in getting dirty and having your gear get damaged is unbelievable. This is the kind of feature that I imagine cost an enormous amount of the game's total budget. Bethesda could never. And this is a Kickstarter game. Todd Howard should be embarrassed. A lot of the perks in the game are just bad. It's never crippling to take a bad perk though, since there is a respec potion, but probably half the perks in the game end up as net negatives. Particularly the perks that grant bonuses to one stat and negatives to another. At stat cap, the bonuses can't overcap the stats, but the negatives still apply, so basically no matter what, you'll want to be taking those perks off. Perks that let you do more damage but cost more stamina, do less damage but cost less stamina, a faster horse that can carry less, or the opposite. Weapon Cruncher is just a steep dive to your profit per kill, and a lot of these perks have hidden values, which just means wiki diving. I don't mind double-edged traits like this. I love them in Fallout, but there they were referred to as traits rather than perks. The term perk usually refers to a strictly beneficial effect. And since there are a lot of perks that are strictly beneficial, I feel like these belong in their own category. So you'll be sitting on perk points a lot. Sometimes indefinitely. I am running out of things to talk about. Fark it, let's talk about Farkle. Whether or not Farkle actually exists in 1403 seems to be a topic of scholarly debate, but it's a fairly simple game with absolutely insane scoring. To start, all score values are divisible by 10, so functionally you don't play to 4000, you play to 400. I think all scores are also divisible by 50, so really you're just playing to 80. This was something I first noticed about Quidditch, and it's poisoned me to always look out for it in other games. The fundamentals of Farkle is that 1s and 5s score, and you need to score every time you roll or you lose your points for that round. You score by holding dice and can re-roll or pass to the next round. You can also score by getting straights. Small straights of 5 in a row or full straights of 6 in a row. Also, dice of a kind can score with higher kinds being worth more, and kinds being worth multiplicatively more the more of them you get. Get 6 of a kind of 5s or 6s, or 5 of a kind with 1s, and you've instantly won. Playing honest dice is foolish for a variety of reasons, on top of which it would legitimately take a long time to make any real money this way. But there are effectively 2 ways to cheat. Weighted dice are the primary way. The other way is just an agility perk. Henry starts the game with a weighted die. Read the description and you'll immediately realize this die is actually cursed and you should not play with it. The wiki has all the probabilities for every weighted die, and Henry's die lands predominantly on 2, the actual worst possible result. Straights can be profitable, but kinds are better, so matching weighted die with the same probability skew is ideal. 1s and 5s and maybe 6s are what you want. It's no Gwent, but this game wears its love for The Witcher on its sleeve, and that had its humble beginnings in dice poker, so this just makes sense. What else have I got? Oh, alchemy is pretty cool. It feels incredibly stiff and unintuitive, but there's a lot more lenience over the boiling times than you'd expect. And I found that the instructions aren't as hard and fast as the game makes it out to be. For instance, you can grind ingredients ahead of time and only add them in at the appropriate point in the boiling process. Still, this is definitely an aspect that was much improved in KCD2, as there's nothing worse than accidentally hitting the bellows too hard and watching in horror as your very expensive potion continues boiling and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, look, this cauldron has the machining on its belt to raise away from the fire like you can in KCD2, but it's like they forgot to add it. Lastly, here's a bit of inside baseball for you. When making any kind of video like this, you have to turn off the music in-game. Not for copyright reasons, it just makes editing clips together a nightmare. And while I only sometimes notice the background music while playing normally, the instant I turned it off, I found myself humming the tunes to myself. I hadn't even realized I'd committed them to memory. The soundtrack really elevates this game. It's incredible.
Lords and ladies, good men and good wives, you have just witnessed the final duel in today's Rattay Tourney, for which we all owe gratitude to Sir Hanush of Rattay. All glory to the victor, Henry of Skalitz, man-at-arms in the company of Sir Rattay. His prize will be given to him by our gracious Sir Hanush.